Buddha Story: A Lesson in the Universality of Suffering. Once upon a time, in a small village in India, there lived a young woman named Kavya. Kavya was a devoted mother to her young son, Naveen, and loved him more than anything in the world. She spent her days caring for him, playing with him, and watching him grow. But one day, tragedy struck. Naveen fell ill and passed away, leaving Kavya heartbroken and inconsolable. Kavya was consumed by grief and could not find peace. She spent her days in a haze, unable to eat or sleep, and her nights were filled with nightmares and tears. She searched desperately for a way to ease her pain and bring her son back to life, but nothing seemed to help. One day, a friend suggested that she seek the advice of the Buddha, a wise and compassionate teacher who was renowned for his ability to ease suffering and bring peace to troubled souls. Kavya was hesitant at first, but she was willing to try anything to find relief from her pain. So, she set out on a long journey to find the Buddha. She walked for many days and nights, through forests and over mountains, until she finally arrived at a small village where the Buddha was staying. When she finally met the Buddha, she fell to her knees and begged him to bring her son back to life. The Buddha listened to her story with compassion and understanding, and he promised to help her in any way he could. But then he said, "Before I can help you, I need you to do something for me. I need you to bring me a mustard seed from a home where no one has ever experienced loss or grief." Kavya was confused but hopeful. "This is easy," she thought. "I will go from house to house until I find the mustard seed that the Buddha needs." So she set out on her task, going from house to house and asking for a mustard seed. At each home, she explained her mission and asked for the seed. At first, the people were happy to help her, and they gave her the seeds she needed. But when she asked if anyone in the house had ever experienced loss or grief, they all replied, "Yes, of course. We have all lost someone we love." Kavya was surprised and disheartened. She had thought that her grief was unique, that no one had ever felt pain like hers. But now she realized that she was not alone in her suffering. Everyone, it seemed, had experienced loss and pain in their lives. Kavya began to feel hopeless. She had searched high and low for the mustard seed, but she could not find a single home where no one had ever experienced loss or grief. She began to understand that her own suffering was not unique, that everyone went through hard times and experienced pain and loss. She began to see that her grief was a part of the human experience, and that she was not alone in her suffering. Finally, Kavya returned to the Buddha, empty-handed. She told him that she had searched high and low for the mustard seed, but she could not find a single home where no one had ever experienced loss or grief. She was filled with sadness and despair, feeling as though she had failed. But the Buddha smiled at her and said, "Kavya, you have learned a valuable lesson. You have learned that suffering is a part of the human experience, and that no one is immune to pain and loss. But you have also learned that by accepting this truth, we can find peace and joy even in the midst of our pain." Kavya was confused. "But how can I find peace when my heart is so broken?" she asked. The Buddha replied, "You must learn to focus on the present moment. You cannot change the past or predict the future, but you can find peace and happiness in the present. You must learn to live in the moment, to appreciate the beauty of life, and to find joy in the small things." Kavya listened to the Buddha's words and felt a sense of calm wash over her. She realized that she had been so consumed by her grief that she had forgotten to appreciate the present moment, to see the beauty in the world around her. She realized that the Buddha was right, that she could find peace and joy even in the midst of pain. And so, Kavya left the Buddha's presence feeling lighter and more at peace than she had in weeks. She continued to grieve for her son, but she also began to appreciate the beauty of life, to find joy in the small things, and to live in the present moment. And as time passed, she found that her heart began to heal, and that she was able to live a happy and fulfilling life, even in the midst of her loss. The end.